Welcome to the ninth season of Smart Talks with Jovan program, where we talk to people sharing the future of energy and technology. The season is about flexibility, and we are focusing on how energy systems are evolving to become more adaptive, resilient, and efficient in the face of rapid decarbonization and digitalization. I am joined today by Elena Boskov Kovacs, an energy transition strategist focused on the role the digitalization of energy systems and smart grids. Elena holds an honorary chair role at the ETIP governing board. With more than 2 decades of experience across industry and EU innovation programs, she works at the intersection of technology, policy, and investment to accelerate Europe's clean energy transition. Elena, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. And before we start with the question, we can taste a very nice wine. I just want to give you a short introduction. It is a Serbian wine produced in winery Serbica, and it is a combination of an authentic Serbian grape sort, Kevedinka, and carefully chosen French grape sorts, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Pinot Blanc. And the name of wine is Ivana, and it is given from a woman who match domestic tradition and French charm.
Oh, wonderful. Full hospitality. So thank you.
Cheers. Okay, so we can start with the first question. From your perspective as an honorary chair at the ETIP governing board, could you briefly describe your role and responsibilities? And based on that experience, how do you define energy flexibility today? And how does this differ from how system operators and regulators typically frame it?
That's a really good question to start. I think there's a lot of confusion about what flexibility is. It's a term widely used by everybody nowadays. Sometimes as a substitute for things that people don't regularly talk about. Maybe a brief introduction about me in terms of why I'm talking about flexibility, from what kind of perspective. ETIP, which is not a household name, still is an advisory body to the European Commission in DG Energy in Brussels that is guiding the Commission on this energy transition path. And it has several working groups. In the past, I have represented the industry, meaning grid operators and other industrial associations, that together put the knowledge about where the roadmap for the European predominantly energy industry is going to be developed. And I have for 4 years chaired the working group on digitalization. And now I serve at the larger ETIP for smart networks. That means that for over a decade, we have together been meeting regularly and discussing with heads of European grid operators, associations, regulators, and essentially industrial manufacturers about what do we need to make Europe competitive and what this European network of grid operators and of power industry needs in order to advance to the green transition agenda. So the dialogue and the words and the buzzwords obviously have changed and evolved over the years. And nowadays, in the past couple of years, beyond digitalization, the word flexibility is popping up. Now, mostly for my colleagues, even in the industry who are not dealing with it on a day to day basis, flexibility in people's mind is often confused with demand response. That means that a lot of people in the past have thought of flexibility as a way to send signal to either households or the industry to, let's say, switch off the boiler or postpone consumption of electricity, or ultimately shift it to another period. But flexibility is a much broader term. And nowadays, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide that essentially is the systems, meaning the power systems, capacity to control both generation, consumption, and storage across time and space. And this is a system control issue on one side, but also involves a lot of very modern assets in the network that all cost a lot of money and essentially transfer into changed behavior of the grids, increased energy security, and also new revenue streams, which is a big paradigm shift in Europe. So this is when we talk about flexibility, it's a broad term, and it's definitely a consequence of no longer centralized systems, but everybody being able to participate in the new marketplace.
Okay, thank you for this nice explanation of flexibility. And this leads us to our next question. Flexibility is often presented as an alternative to traditional grid reinforcement. So, in which cases does this approach truly work in practice? And where does it remain more theoretical than economical value?
Yes. So definitely conversation we need to have. On one side, there are a lot of, I would say, innovative R&D type of projects in flexibility that are being piloted across Europe. But flexibility is no longer an R&D topic or an exotic pilot that maybe some institutes are going to coordinate with some demo parts of the grid. Certainly it is not a silver bullet. So there are places where programs for flexibility really work, bring amazing advantage, and definitely can, with proper insight into the situation in the grid, proper investment into the storage, there are some very quick solutions, very good solutions, leveraging demand response programs, but also controllability of the networks, smart meters, controllable devices, and IoT that can help definitely relax the grid, reduce congestions, and provide a quick fix. Definitely postpone some investments in DSOs, meaning distribution system operators, investments into new transformer stations, for example. And reduce volatility in the network caused by distributed solar, wind, and other, I would say, medium and low voltage grid devices and sources. However, it only works for, I would say, very specifically targeted issues in the network, and it is not a systemic solution. So this can definitely postpone investments in some parts of the grid. It can definitely increase penetration of renewables as well as reliability of some parts of the grid, but is not a solution that can solve all of our issues, as we have seen in Spain and some recent blackout situations. And for this reason, in parallel to rising investments into flexibility and participation in the new markets, it is very important not to forget investments, traditional centrally managed investments of TSOs and DSOs right now into grid reinforcement and grid expansion and replacing aging assets, which is something that was, let's say, put under the rug for quite some time. But we cannot stop continuing investments into control center solutions, industrial automation, and also smart meters.
Okay. So the point different software applications which we have today cannot replace grid reinforcement, but can decrease investments.
Definitely.
We can say on this. Yeah. So it is the balance.
It is a balance of both. So neither one is solution for everything. So just investing into solutions like ADMS or DERMS, which are invested in by DSOs, they certainly improve visibility into the depth of the grid, which is necessary for maintaining security of supply. At the same time, only scalable flexibility assets, meaning microgrids, meaning PV, rooftop solar, meaning storage solutions, either at the level of the building or at the level of the grid, those solutions can really postpone heavy investments, heavy CapEx investments into the grid.
And maybe we can say that this kind of solutions, different software applications, smart metering, DMS, etc., will decrease cost of maintenance in utilities. So then they can that money transform in reinforcement and other things. Also,
absolutely. Fully agree with you. Yes. I mean, it's a trend now in asset management, asset health index assessments. This equipment has a lifespan of 30 years often in industrial automation. So these quick solutions, I would say quick in terms of how quickly they're rolled out, can definitely save money of very expensive assets.
Okay. And our next question is, what are the main technical and market bottlenecks that currently prevent large-scale deployment of flexibility services at distribution level, especially in networks with a high share of renewables? Or do you see any bottlenecks?
I definitely do see them. I would say on one side, in terms of installing new equipment in the networks, both from the side of very eager investors, meaning sometimes industrial investors, but on the other side, DSOs, we see a lot of implementation of smart metering, of new control systems, new sensors and smart devices. However, in spite of all of these rollouts, I would say that DSOs still lack visibility in the depth of the network at the low voltage in terms of what is going on. So there, in spite of the, I would say, proliferation of all of these devices, the systems at the level of software, system integration, are not fully end-to-end digitalized. So digitalization is really a prerequisite. It's not just installation of IoTs, and it's not just installation of some business solutions, but real end-to-end digitalization of and mapping of all of the grid assets and consumption can definitely help from the technical side. On the other hand, of course, we have the obstacle imposed by very localized market evolution across Europe. So we have some very advanced countries in terms of participation in the balancing market, joining the platforms for balancing market, definitely implementation of what Brussels want down at the level of the countries. This is something that is very uneven and very subject to interpretation by the national regulators and paced at that very different time frame. So this is definitely another major obstacle. But what I can see is that now even in Southeast Europe, we're seeing, let's say, picking up the pace in terms of market restructuring.
Okay, it is interesting. We often also have some episodes from Africa, and there are different situations in different continents. We can say that in Europe, smart metering is implemented mainly in all countries, maybe not in Germany, but generally across the continent, and also DMS and some other software applications you mentioned. But as you mentioned, it seems that the main problem is integration of all these applications in one system and one control, and what to do with all of data.
Yes. I mean, this is technical prerequisite to solve the problem that we're trying to solve, meaning buying all of these solutions, but really integrating them and actually scheduling when to buy which one and what you can and cannot integrate. I mean, raw data is amazing, but you need a system and continuous integration of systems in order to really leverage that data for decision making. And this is one thing that I try to, in my, not as part of ETIP, but also in my commercial work, because I advise DSOs and DSOs how to prepare a roadmap for digitalization. This is absolutely critical because raw data still doesn't help you. You need first insight in real time what is going on, and then you also need forecasting abilities.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, because it is also a dilemma for the countries, an example in Africa, which are on the beginning of their road, how to start, how to proceed when they see that in Europe also this process is not completely finished.
Well, actually, I had a similar situation. I was working in Turkey, let's say over a decade ago, decade and a half ago, when Turkey was starting to privatize DSOs. And some of them had the beauty that we in Europe don't have, which is buying many things from scratch. We are often plagued in Europe, the DSOs or TSOs or utilities, they have aging assets. You cannot replace everything, obviously. You buy every couple of years, you buy new equipment or you have a rollout of smart meters. But you still have constraints because of the legacy systems, legacy RTUs, legacy protocols. When you go to a country that has the budget to restructure and buy many systems from scratch because they jumped, I would say, couple of years into the future, then you understand that being able to buy in the marketplace something that is cutting edge is also not a solution. It's not a silver bullet starting from scratch just because you can buy it, because there are so many different still standards in the marketplace, and understanding what you need to buy that best fits your purpose is another discussion that needs to happen. There's a lot of knowledge and dialogue that has to happen, and it's very specific to the circumstances of your region, your consumers, and what you're trying to solve.
It is very often situation in projects and utilities how to connect legacy systems with implementation of new technologies. Yes, and it is challenge, of course. Okay, so this concludes the first part of our interview with Elena Boskov. In the second part, we will explore enabling technologies, risks, and practical steps toward implemented flexibility in modern energy systems.
Thank you.